Well, good afternoon. I'm really happy to be here with all of you today. As Adam mentioned, my primary focus is on threats to US elections that come from overseas and how that foreign interference impacts our election security, our domestic media, our social media, and of course, our campaigns. They're all related. We know that foreign adversaries want us to be divided and susceptible to inflammatory information online. And we know that they want our system to be in chaos. These attacks are happening all the time, even though we can't see many of them. And to reiterate again what Kim Wyman said earlier, she's the election lead at CISA in the Department of Homeland Security. She said that cyber attacks on our campaigns and elections are wider and more pervasive than ever. And I would add that many of those attacks are coming from overseas. So, agenda for today. Today, I will cover the types of attacks on our elections that we've seen come from other countries, discuss some ways we can spot these attacks and protect ourselves against them, and finally touch on the US government's actions to counter these threats, including in our upcoming midterm elections. The Department of Homeland Security, which we've talked about a lot today, warned about this exact threat in a June 7th bulletin. You can see the summary up on the screen. They wrote that foreign adversaries remain intent on exploiting the dynamic threat environment to sow discord, undermine US democratic institutions, and promote or inspire violence by their supporters. In order to achieve these goals, hostile foreign actors in foreign countries have launched several types of attacks on our democracy. Cliff Newman discussed many of these earlier. I'm going to dig into them a little bit now as well. First, we've seen the hacking and public release of campaign documents by a hostile foreign government or entity with the goal of influencing an election in favor of a preferred candidate. So think WikiLeaks or the Clinton campaign DNC emails. Those were hacked by a Russian organization working with Moscow's intelligence service and then released at key points during the 2016 campaign. This was a key topic during the 2016 campaign. I'm sure we all remember this. On the screen, you can see a protester holding a hashtag DNC leak sign, I think actually at a Bernie Sanders rally there. Second, we've seen public misinformation campaigns waged largely on social media designed to create division in our country. And here's how those work. Foreign actors create fake accounts that appear to be real American voters, but they're actually trolls or bots. And then those fake accounts promote propaganda, conspiracy theories, or just outright lies, which are then often shared by real people. It's this vicious cycle. Those people think that these are actually true. This is where hostile foreign governments really try to rile up Americans against each other and make us distrust our own elections outcomes by promoting false conspiracy theories. On the slide you'll see here is an example of this kind of attack. At 10, GOP claims to represent Tennessee Republicans, but it turns out that this account wasn't affiliated with the state party or with any Tennessee Republicans at all. At 10, GOP was actually a Kremlin-linked bot, and the entity ended up as part of a federal grand jury indictment for essentially waging information warfare to help a preferred candidate. The account did this by posting inflammatory and inaccurate information and conspiracy theories, all the while pretending to be an American political organization when it wasn't. We've also seen the scanning and probing of voter rolls, registration rolls, and other voter data by Russia. There's no public evidence that this data has been altered, but it's definitely an area that folks are keeping a close eye on because they're concerned about it. There's also, of course, the ever-present threat of ransomware attacks by criminal groups tied to hostile foreign governments. We've heard a lot of talk about that today. In general, foreign ransomware attacks have been on the rise, and there is no reason to think that elections infrastructure or political entities or third-party vendors that many of us use for election-related work, that those won't be targets as well. Finally, foreign intelligence services around the world are working to penetrate political campaigns across our country to gather information about candidates, even low-profile candidates, that they can then use against American politicians once they're in power. As we meet today, US security officials are worried about what foreign governments are doing and might do around the upcoming midterm elections. Much of that concern, as always, centers around Russia and how it could exploit American divisions that we all know exist and seed false conspiracy theories about the integrity of our elections. Here's one example of a scenario that security officials are worried about, the kind of thing they're looking for. Russian hackers could breach a local county voter registration system. Many people on this call work on those today. But here's the plot twist. They actually want to get detected. That's the goal. They would then post information and take responsibility rather than blaming third-party hackers like they did in 2016. And then other Kremlin-backed forces would amplify the problems on Facebook and Twitter with the goal of really churning up angry reactions and playing into this distrust that has been sown with the American people about the integrity and security of our elections. Russia is not the only country undertaking this kind of activity, but they're definitely the most prolific and the most aggressive to date. And despite international outcry since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Russian embassy accounts around the world have actually received more online engagement since the invasion than before. And they've used that online engagement to promote Russian propaganda on a whole host of issues. There are other countries who are active in this space, including Iran, China, and others that we're watching. For all of these reasons, elections infrastructure has been designated as critical by the US government, which allows DHS to provide prioritized cybersecurity services at the request of state and local officials, which jurisdictions should all definitely take advantage of. Each player in the elections business on this slide represents a potential vulnerability to one of those types of attacks that I outlined above, each of these components, the human, physical, and digital. So what can we do? Well, first, we can use good operational security, as we heard earlier from Cliff Newman, have multiple layers of security and not just one single point of failure. Second, we have to train ourselves, our campaigns, our political parties, our elections officials, how to detect foreign-based disinformation, including how to spot bots by doing things like looking for hyperactivity, more than 50 to 60 tweets a day, or unlikely popularity for a very recently started account. Here's an example on this slide of that kind of attack, of that kind of bot. In August 2017, an account called @KirstenKellogg posted a tweet attacking US media outlet ProPublica. It's a left-leaning media outlet. This account had very low activity, only 76 followers at the time, and it wasn't following any other accounts. But its post was retweeted and liked over 23,000 times. Chances are that's not real. It didn't just, go viral because it's such a great tweet, and that it's likely coming from overseas somewhere. These are the kinds of things to look out for, and crucially, as Sarah underscored, to avoid sharing. Tech companies also have to do more to help combat the proliferation of disinformation. Social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter have civic responsibilities as they grapple with the disinformation and misinformation that flourishes on their platforms, much of which originates overseas. There are many ways these companies can track where online information comes from, including that famous anecdote from 2016 about Facebook ads dealing with our election in the United States that were paid for in Russian rubles. The two ads on this slide were indeed two of those that were paid for in rubles. Disturbingly, there's been some reporting in the recent weeks that Facebook parent company Meta is quietly rolling back some of the safeguards it had put in place to combat voter misinformation or foreign interference in US elections. I think there's more to watch on that story. And just today, Twitter posted on its blog its plan around the 2022 elections, midterm elections as well, which we'll be digging into a lot more in the coming weeks. Finally, we and our allies have to use whatever tools we have to pressure countries like Russia and to punish those who continue to meddle in our foreign political system. Recently, the director of the NSA and US Cyber Command, he's up there on the screen, General Paul Nakasone, said in an interview that we are going full bore against foreign interference and influence in our elections. He also said that he was very focused on whether ransomware would disrupt the midterm elections and that the US right now is conducting a series of operations to prevent that from happening. After the foreign interference in the 2016 election, Cyber Command, which is one of the Department of Defense's combatant commands, was given more authorities to conduct offensive operations overseas. And he has said that his team actually conducted more than 24 operations to get ahead of foreign threats before the 2020 elections, based on that new authority. The election security group is led by NSA and Cyber Command, and it includes members from across the US government. It is focused right now on doing the same thing in future elections. So many parts of the federal government are involved in this fight. Just this week, the Justice Department unsealed an indictment against a Russian citizen who was working on behalf of the Russian government, who allegedly orchestrated a years-long foreign influence campaign that used various US political groups to sow discord, spread pro-Russian propaganda, and interfere in elections within the United States. So this is not just a national problem. This indictment says that from at least 2014 until 2022, this Russian citizen recruited political groups in Florida, Georgia, and California out at the state level and exercised direction or control over them on behalf of Russian intelligence, secretly, of course. He provided financial support to these groups, directed them to publish pro-Russian propaganda, coordinated and funded direct action by these groups within the United States, and coordinated coverage of this activity in Russian media outlets. The US State Department has also offered up to $10 million to anyone who provides information on foreign interference in US elections, part of its Rewards for Justice program, a program that's been used over the years to find terrorists or other kinds of narco criminals around the world. The program aims to gather information that leads to the identification or location of any foreign person or entity who is engaging in election interference. These are exactly the kinds of tools the US and our partners are going to have to keep deploying to counter this threat. We have immense technical tools at our disposal, but the main point I want to leave everyone with today is that a lot of the most important work happens at the state and local level with all of you. We need to keep working to secure our elections, do all those things you've heard about today, and crucially, to not sow doubts about the legitimacy of these elections, to not give these foreign governments who want to do us harm opening to take advantage of. We cannot give them an opening to exploit. We know they've done it in the past, and they will continue to do so if given the chance. With that, Adam, I'll turn it back to you.